All right, everyone, we have extremely important breaking news. This is from roughly the last hour, which is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course, the Supreme Court Justice, has apparently suffered a fall in her home and now has 3 fractured ribs. She's in the hospital. Now, fracturing your ribs, like having a few bruised or fractured ribs, itself is only a moderate injury. It's not like it's itself particularly life-threatening. There are 2 things that I would say, though. Number one, she's 85. When you are 85, it takes an inordinate amount of time, generally speaking, to recover from injuries. It's gonna be some months before she's walking without a walker at that point. It could knock her out of SCOTUS literally for months, literally. 85 years old. It's going to take a while. Also, the other thing I would say, and this actually, and I'm not making light of this because this it personally affected my life. My grandfather had the same thing. It can also be indicative of early stage Alzheimer's. The loss of balance, the loss of some coordination, possibly an early warning sign thereupon. Specifically, your brain starts to function a little bit less. You're walking along, you just put your foot in the wrong spot and you end up falling down or something. Now, it can be indicative of that. Usually when someone who is very elderly, and mid-80s is definitely in that range, suffers a fall, you start looking into why the fall occurred, and it may not be necessarily the most cheerful news. Now, I'm not the sort of person who wishes any ill upon anybody, including Ginsburg. I really have no problem with Ginsburg, other than maybe her gun control beliefs and so forth. Her beliefs on affirmative action, maybe. But if she were to die, and at her age, again, I've been saying the next big thing that could happen within U.S. politics very easily in the next year or two would be Ginsburg croaking or being forced to resign by injury, which I don't think this causes that, but it could be a precursor to it. She could suffer complications. Yeah, absolutely. She could be unable to continue her duties in a general fashion. One of the next big things would be a battle over replacing Ginsburg. If Trump is president at the time, with a Republican Senate, which probably he'll have a total of 53 seats until the special election gives him probably a 54th, he gets to put in whoever he wants. It would be a massive battle. Now, Trump is, because he's not far right, he has to straddle a line. His base isn't going to like it. If he replaces Ginsburg with someone who's far left, it's not going to work. And by all means, it would almost certainly have to be a female, or he's going to get called, horrible sexist, and they'll immediately attack him for it. The thing is, the Democrats at this point can't stand in his way, even if he put another Gorsuch on the court. I don't think he will. I don't think it would be wise. I think he's more likely to choose a center-left female who simply leans right on guns. There'll be a compromise involved in order to get maybe a few Democratic senators on board. It'd be a shorter process than with Kavanaugh if it's a female nominee, by the way, because you don't have a risk of the Me Too thing, because for some reason females can't sexually assault people in the minds of many people on the left. It'll be a massive battle if that happens. Now, I'm not at this moment predicting this kills off Ginsburg. But if she's showing early signs of Alzheimer's, there could very swiftly come a time that the longer that the disease is delayed before it shows, especially there was a study years ago, I remember seeing this. They studied tens of thousands of cases, and they found that people that were more well-educated, and Ginsburg's very classically educated, and doesn't she have a PhD? I think in some heavy-hitting field. She's very well-educated. She's obviously smart as a whip. Even now that she's old, she's still very smart. When people are more educated, more academically trained, high IQ, so forth, Alzheimer's typically waits until later in their life to appear. When it does, though, it progresses much faster. Whereas in people, someone who dropped out in middle school, it'll appear earlier, but it'll be a more slow progression. They might languish with it slowly for 10 years or something. My grandfather, for example, was very intelligent. Maybe not academically speaking the most classically educated person. He didn't have a college degree. But he was very much into history, very much into anthropology, actually, which is something I didn't find out till later on in his life. He loved anything related to military history. You'd be surprised at how he could rattle things off like an encyclopedia. When he started developing Alzheimer's, which was immediately after a fall, that was sort of the first warning sign. It progressed rather quickly. After the first year, it was substantially quick, which was unfortunate. So unfortunately, this could be a warning sign of that, or it could just be, she lost balance. But she's had a heart attack. She's had cancer, actually. So she could have a tumor growing in her brain or something. When somebody falls down, even if they're just like old, you have to ask why that happened. Is she going to be able to fulfill her duties as a SCOTUS justice? And is she even going to necessarily, there's maybe a 1 in 100 chance she dies of her injuries because she gets an infection in the hospital. Now, they're going to handle her with the ultimate kid gloves. Trust me, all of the liberals in that hospital, they'll be having like fucking hazmat suits on, waiting on her hand and foot, trying to make sure that she's okay. Is she actually going to be okay, though? That's, I guess, really the big question. It could set up the biggest political battle of modern history. It would be way bigger than Kavanaugh. 10,000 times more politically important. Ginsburg is a long-term fixture of the court. Probably the most recognizable female other than Hillary Clinton currently within any political situation. It'd be a big thing. So this is huge news. This is like Jeff Sessions resigning. I already bumped that video. It's like, fuck Jeff Sessions. This is Ruth Bader Ginsburg on SCOTUS. And so for all of the people on there, I'm sure that they'll be chanting to Pepe and Keck at the moment, doing like meme magic. Yeah, well, you know, I told you so. Literally right after the midterm, she suffers a fall. Maybe the stress of knowing that the Senate was more Republican now, and that if she does croak or something, she gets replaced potentially by someone loyal to Trump, is so infuriating. Maybe she had a mini stroke. That could also be the cause of it. It is possible. We've got to start, I think, maybe thinking about what the options will be when Ginsburg's no longer there. She can't live forever. They can't put her brain in a jar and attach it to a robot with a voice modulator, interesting as though that would be. By the way, transhumanism in the technological sense being possible in many ways, what does that mean for people within political positions that have lifetime appointments? We actually need to pragmatically begin thinking about that now. I'm not even joking about that. It is theoretically possible to put a brain in a jar with a voice modulator. Yeah. Literally, robo-brains from Fallout, we're like 20 years out from being able to capture that sort of technology. That's not a joke. We need to start thinking about that. By the way, I say that as someone who rejects transhumanism, but on the robotic, on the technological end, yeah, it's a lot closer and a lot more possible than you'd think. Having Ginsburg's brain in a jar, probably something. I mean, there are people that have said, hey, if Ginsburg needs an organ, everyone needs to get together and give her a heart, give her a liver or whatever. I'd literally cut it out of my own chest to give her a lung. There are people who are crazy and would do that. They'd probably swap out her brain, but then, of course, it wouldn't be Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So she has suffered a fall, 3 fractured ribs. We'll probably be getting more updates on, sort of the condition. Then again, you have medical privacy involved. It could be that she's on painkillers right now, and she's like totally wonky. She's like, oh, am I a Republican now? Oh, what year is it? Oh, shit. Basically, who's the president? Is Barack around? I want to talk to Barack. Oh, fuck. And she starts suffering like memory loss. I know it's not really funny. For anyone who's had a family member, a loved one with Alzheimer's, it's not funny at all. The jokes do sort of write themselves, though, in the political fashion, I suppose. That's about all. Peace out.